All right, let's get going here. It's Thursday night. It's 5 p.m. Pacific time. If you're on Pacific time, if you're out east, it's 8 o'clock. And that could mean only one thing. It's time for us to head out to the yard. So welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Richard Bronson. I am the founder and CEO of 70 Million Jobs and Commissary Club. I'll be one of your hosts tonight. I'm joined by my two friends and teammates. First, we got Seth Sundberg, the big man, ex-NBA baller. Seth, hello.
What's happening, Richard?
All right. And then, of course, we are joined by the living legend, the rap star and entrepreneur to the stars, Mr. Victor Lombard, better known as Divine. Hey, D, how are you tonight?
I'm great. Thank you, Rich.
Great to see you again. So what is the yard? Well, we're part of Commissary Club, and Commissary Club is a social network for folks with records, as you may know. It's our belief that while there are 70 million of us, people with records, that's 1 in 3 adults, believe it or not. Most people who have never done time really have very little insight into who we are, and even less about what life is behind bars, other than, of course, what they see on TV or in the movies. So we're hoping that by the end of this episode, you'll agree that we're pretty much like anybody else. We are perfectly imperfect. We, like you, love our families, we worry about money, and we try to be the best men and women that we can be. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes not so much. So really what we're after is we're trying to simulate those moments in prison when we were let out into the yard, and where we can all see, so that you can all see and hear what it's all about. You know, in the yard, whatever you're doing, you're connecting with others. Now, if you have just some housekeeping, if you have questions or comments while this is going on, we encourage you, please don't hesitate to use the chat feature at the bottom of your screen, and we'll try to get to your questions or comments over the next hour and a half. Adrian, who's also on our team, she manages things behind the scenes, and she'll let in a couple of people over the course of while we're on, about halfway through, if there are people who would like to join the conversation. Now, tonight we've got a couple of really interesting guests. We're very, very lucky that they're joining us. And like me and like Seth and like Divine, they have also done time. First, we have Marcus Bullock. Marcus was just 15 when he was arrested for stealing a car. And he was sentenced to 8 years in prison in a maximum security facility at age 15. Marcus had to grow up fast, and he did. He, when he was released from prison, he launched a company called Flikshop, which has been an enormous success. It's an app that allows friends and family of people who are in prison to easily and inexpensively send them photographs to their loved ones. Some have called this the Instagram for inmates. Marcus's story has gained national attention. He gets really great press. And he's delivered a very, very powerful TED Talk that I urge you all to check out on YouTube. It's great. He's an aggressive advocate for his brothers and sisters, both in prison and out of prison. So we're really happy you join us. Marcus, thanks for joining us on the yard.
So
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. This is going to be fun.
It's going to be, I promise. Now, joining Marcus, we have another interesting gentleman, Shannon Ross. Shannon also got into trouble as a kid. He refers to his troubles as an immensely foolish act of revenge. So I'm very interested to hear exactly what that act involved. But for it, he received, for his foolishness, he received a 17-year sentence. That wasn't foolish at all. Now, there's a saying in prison, you don't let the time do you, you do the time. And Shannon is an example of somebody, he controlled things, he did the time. He received a bachelor's degree, then he got a master's degree. And as part of his prison justice reform activism, he publishes a newsletter called Community, which is very popular and it's widely read throughout his state, Wisconsin, and throughout the federal prison system as well. Shannon, great to have you here.
Shannon, what's up,
Thank you.
man?
Thank you for inviting me. Very happy to be here.
Our pleasure. All right. So like we've done before for every episode of The Yard, I'm going to ask our guests, I'm going to ask our hosts and everybody who's listening in, please do me a favor and follow along here. Number one, everybody, please just take a deep breath. All right. Now, please, everybody, close your eyes for a moment or two. Close your eyes right now and let your mind sort of wander and imagine, if you will, that right now, this moment, you're actually in prison. For those of us who've been in prison, it'll probably be a little easier to do it. If you've never been there, maybe imagine yourself sharing a tiny cell with somebody else. Maybe that person's like 6.5 feet tall and weighs 290 pounds. And you're both breathing the same air day after day. You're lying in your bunk maybe. And as you're looking out through the bars, you can't help but notice that half of the prison population, it seems, has come down with the coronavirus. And almost daily, you're watching prison guards. They're taking inmates by your cell on a stretcher. And as much as you try not to think about this, you can't help but know some of these inmates, some of these folks who you know, some of them won't be coming back. But once a day, with your eyes still closed, once a day, you hear an announcement, and that means that the guards are going to let you out onto the yard. It's a large, flat square of land where at least you can breathe some fresh air. If it's a nice day, maybe you can enjoy being out in the sun and appreciate that. Maybe you'll use the time to go work out. So you'll go to the weight pile and you'll lift some weights, or maybe you'll just toss around a football. But chances are what you'll end up doing is walking to the same spot every day, because that's where your crew, your friends, that's where they hang out every day. And you'll nod and say hello, and maybe one of you will share some news they got from home. Maybe you'll talk with a couple of people about a business that you've been thinking about doing when you get out. But whatever you end up talking about, you're going to relish this very brief time, because there's no guard who's harassing you. You're not standing on yet another endless line for no good reason. And you're away from that 6.5 foot, 290 pound cellie who you share your prison cell with. So you relish this time. You relish it if just for these few minutes, you can pretend that you right now are maybe actually a human being. And it's a chance that you'll laugh as a human being, and maybe you'll argue with each other, and maybe you'll share some bad news that you got. You'll probably try to hold back the tears because you don't want to be weak out in the yard. But whatever it is and whatever you're experiencing, if just for a few minutes, you'll remind yourself that, yeah, I am a human being. So please, everybody open their eyes and let's get this started in the yard. Marcus, number one, I got to ask you to start things off. You were 15 years old and they threw your ass into a maximum security prison. What was that like?
Yo, you capturing that moment, walking onto the rec yard. I'm like, oh,
That was a hell of an
where you
intro,
at?
Richard. That was a hell of an
Yo,
intro.
did you murdered that? I'm like, yo,
No, I
the
was
thing
like,
is, you right.
whew.
You're right, right? Like, cause I'm sure like the people that are on the call, they have to try to visualize what it may look like, right? But somebody that's been there, right? I'm visualizing myself walking out of C building, and I'm walking down the ramp, right? And as I'm walking down the ramp, it's like a pile of us, and we all walking toward the yard, and we all are looking for that. Oh God, dang, they finally popped the doors. You know what I mean? And then when you walk through that gate, even though I know that as soon as I walk through that gate, 30 seconds after me, I know it's going to clink back behind me.
Yep.
But I know all of my mans are going to be right there at the bottom of the
Yep.
hill where the track meets, because I know the pull-up bar at the top of the hill. And Rollo always does push-ups anytime they pop the gate, Rollo on the arm bar, right? And so we all meet up at the bottom of the hill, and we all start, pulling up. And we, we just chop it up. And most people, you're right, most people talk about whether or not the letter that they got last night, the pictures they bringing them out, if whoever. They're talking about the phone call that so-and-so just got. They're talking about this, somebody arguing about whoever played last night, you know what I mean? Or whoever owed a parlay, man, or like, yo, let me borrow 6 packs, I got to run because I heard so-and-so got whatever, and I can flip into 12. Right? It was always something like, he always got some kind of G, and everybody look at each other like, I ain't get him 6 packs. You give him 6 packs. I ain't get him 6 packs. It's all, I see it. You did an incredible job of painting that picture there. So shout out to you for that.
Well, maybe I should apologize for it being too realistic. It's a bad memory for all of us. But what was it like? Tell me. 15 years old.
That was
at
a
a
long
nasty
tangent
place.
to just give you props.
What?
Yeah, man. So, that was a long tangent for me to give you props, and my bad for that. But yeah, 15. Me being that youngin', walking up on that squad. So when I first got to, it was all transitional, right? Like, you guys know better than anybody, right? Like, I was at the jail, and then when I left the jail, I went to the receiving center. And the receiving center, while it was like, I was at Fairfax County Jail from December. I got sentenced in March. So, and then I got sent up to the receiving in like June and July. It was sweltering hot, and I was in Virginia. Yeah. So I got sent to Emporia, Virginia, which was like, man, it was baking. You could see the heat waves in the air. And I was on a farm out in Southampton, at Southampton receiving. And when I got there, that was like it was like, you could tell the difference between jail and prison. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm like, oh snap. Yeah, I'm and one of the captains that was doing like the intro, like taking my jail suit off and giving me my all stuff, and they're like, yo, go take the shower, right? Y'all know to get naked, go take the shower, whatever. He was like, oh yeah, you know what? You were officially the youngest person to hit this yard. Yeah. You made it to the big leagues now. Yeah. Because I had turned 15 like 6 months before. I turned 15 like
6 months.
Yeah, so it was like, yeah. So he's like, yeah, you made it to the big leagues. So I'm looking at him like, yeah. But to be honest, keep it a buck. Like I grew up around in the city, you know what I mean? And it was during an era where, everybody that was at them kind of spots, they looked like the folks that was on my corners that, you know what I mean, who I looked at my man Big Mike, who gave me my first 8-ball, that he showed me how to chop that joint up on a Nintendo cartridge. We all got them war stories that we told while we were on the yacht. But anyway, so when on the Nintendo cartridge, real loud. So when I got there, it wasn't about like, I'm nervous about being there. Because if I'm keeping it a buck, my brain still wasn't even though I was on a yard and now they told me I was in prison, I was so young that my brain was still like, I was in denial. I was like, oh, they gave me 8 years. I know they gave me 8 years, but the judge going to figure it out. My lawyer's going to figure out how to do that reconsideration. I'm going to get all this time back. Like, it's no way they're going to keep me here. Yeah. So in my brain, by the time I got to Southampton, it was like the end of the school year of my sophomore year, and I was like the summer of my junior year. So it was like, if they figure this out during the summer, finally I'll be able to go back to school on my junior year, probably take a couple of tests, and I'll still be able to play on the basketball team because I was a starting shooting guard for Suland. So my brain wasn't like, oh, I'm on a yard, like, damn, I'm in prison. It was like, yeah, I'm here. I'm just beefing. I'm going to miss a couple math classes that's going to fuck me up. Oh, my bad. That's going to make me, you know what I mean? Yeah. From being like on being able to get on the starting squad again. So I hadn't realized that I was like, yo, I'm on a yacht and I'm gonna be going to commissary. Shout out to the name Commissary Club. That how brilliant is that? I got a whole thing about how brilliant that is. But like I was going to commissary. When I'm going to commissary, it was real, because it was like when I was like 17, 18, I was in for like 2 years, and I was like, yo, I'm in this joint. And that same hill that we better at the bottom of the joint, for the last year and a half, we've been meeting on this hill. And I got many more of these jokes to go. Nah, man. Now what?
So it took you 2 years to realize that you were going to be down for a while. 3 years.
My boy Danny B was like, yeah, man, I did 31. And when he told me he did 31, I was like, nigga, what? What you mean you did 31? You know what I mean? And that's when it hit me like real live, like, oh, snap. I'm gonna have to do all 8 of these years.
Yeah. Oh boy. So Shannon, you were pretty young too when you went down, right?
Yeah, I was 19. Then when I was 20, when I actually got to prison. But I mean, 150. That's, you know, going into 2150. I'm 5'10". It wasn't nothing big, no kind of muscle or nothing. So yeah, I mean, I might as well have been 15.
Were you nervous, or were you
yeah,
aware of what you were getting yourself into?
Yeah, definitely. I didn't really like my whole crime experience was like crime life adjacent. Like I was living a story almost that I didn't really need to live. I grew up, you know, in inner city Milwaukee, which is highly segregated. So I'm white passing, but I'm mixed. So my whole life I was looked at as the white kid with all my black friends, and you know, and they would see my father and be like, oh damn, you actually are mixed. And so it's something where when I got locked up, I didn't have a whole crew. Wasn't in a gang. I didn't have any structure to go into and feel comfortable just living that experience. So I had to just play it real smooth and just kind of, you know, work my way through the whole dynamics and figure things out. I got in a fight early in county that taught me some lessons about, you know, what type of things and the fact that I really can't fight. So I might want to find a different way to navigate through this experience. And so, you know, I could say I successfully did the rest of my time without getting another fight, but it's something where.
Figure it out early.
Right, got that act right real early. But no, I mean, basically, yeah, it's just, I definitely didn't have any kind of confidence going in. I was just hoping that my sense of humor, the fact that I could play ball and I could rib people, you know, and I had a homicide charge would help me get through it. And it mostly did. That's just crazy how it is.
Yeah, that can't hurt.
Right.
The homicide charge.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, when you got a body, it's like, oh, he got a body. Like,
right. They give you more respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an interesting point. You know, we've had a lot of guests on, and we were all in prison. You know, and the black guys, at least certainly initially, they gravitate. You know, you gravitate to your own, right? And the Asian guys with the Asian guys, and the white guys, the white guys. Where did that leave you?
Same place has left me my whole life. Nowhere. I just kind of make sure that, you know, I'm comfortable being an outcast. And so you have to embrace that at some point in your life in a situation where you're mixed in a world that is so divided and so, you know, just wants to focus on race with everything. And so I am very comfortable because I am very comfortable with my ancestry on all levels. And I'm also very comfortable because I grew up in both sides. I grew up definitely in the hood, but I had my white side of my family, which are upper middle class, all small towns in Wisconsin that I would visit on a regular basis. So I just had that exposure to both sides and made me be like, okay, y'all not really evil and y'all not really dumb. So I understand it ain't none of the stereotypes that people talk about are even true. So I'm not even going to pay attention to it with other people or when people use it on me, and just kind of find a way over time to just become more callous to the attacks on me about people telling me I'm not what I am, or people thinking that, like, it was really funny. It's like a lot of times when people will talk to me, they'll confide in me about some biases they have, thinking I'm one race, and then it's like, oh, by the end of the conversation, you didn't realize, surprise, I'm that race too, motherfucker. I'm not with that shit. So, but it allows me to actually get a lot of.
Do they say like, oh, I'm gonna go tell?
Right.
Like you're gonna go tell on one side.
Don't talk about these niggas over here. Well, I'm a nigga, so why is he talking to me about it? So I mean, yeah, same exact thing. But I mean, it allows me to kind of, you know, get into the being racially ambiguous allows me to get into these conversations and really get an understanding of people and what they think beyond what they have to tell you.
That's a
so
great.
it's actually a gift.
Racially ambiguous.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's interesting. So everybody's sort of got to, you know, figure out for themselves sort of like how they're going to get by and how they're going to make it through and what that persona is, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember like going into prison, I still am a very sort of sarcastic motherfucker, you know, and I'm always making a joke or laughing or seeing the humor in every situation. And I learned very early that that could be a big mistake in prison. People don't like you, particularly, you know, they're not exactly sure why you're laughing. But I discovered that self-respect is the only thing that matters. That's all you got in prison.
Oh, for sure.
And if you're laughing, you're looking for trouble.
So that's a good point, because it seemed the highest security I got to was a medium security, and you guys were both in max, right? And I know D was in a max for a while, and like I was on the Fed side, but like it seemed like the higher security levels, like the more respect was there. Did you guys experience that too? I mean, like I said, I never.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even when I got started to get shorter, like I was like, I wouldn't catch no more charges. I just want to come home. I'm like, yo, just Lord, just please pop the doors. Like I was like, you know what I mean? But and so I had dropped a security. They let me go down to a dorm, which I really didn't even want to go to a dorm. Once I got there, I was like, I'd rather go back to a max than I'd rather go, you know what I mean? But anyway, that's a whole nother talk show. But when I got there, it was different. It was like, you know, the level of gameplay, the jokes were different. Like, whoa, what did he just say that out loud? You know what I mean? I'm like, you know what I mean? Like it was things that was, you know, I'm like, I'm gonna stay to myself, put my headphones on.
Yeah.
So Shannon, what was when you got to prison? What was the thing that most surprised you when you first got there? Do you remember?
I think Wisconsin is unique let me not say unique, but it's definitely not the norm or what you see on TV. I mean, nothing you see on TV is accurate, but it's, I think, further from what you would expect than other facilities in other states. Because like I said, we don't have the big gang problem, but we definitely have the same racial issue that every other state has. But you can kind of mix with other crowds a bit more than you would think in the Wisconsin prison system. And another thing that's been surprising to me is that people that like snitch and people that have sex offenses are not attacked as much as you would think. They're definitely talked about all the time, definitely get no respect, definitely, you know, people will make comments about them all the time and say something to them, but there's not like a level of physical violence that you would see, at least in the Wisconsin prison system.
Were they in Gen Pop?
Same.
Yeah, they'd be like, they would definitely be, you would just be shocked sometimes to have them just mixing right in with regular people, and then, you know, people just wouldn't have respect for them, but they wouldn't really do anything about it, you know, overtly. So that was kind of a surprise to me. And I think it was surprising to me also how easy it was for me to be accepted. I thought I was going to struggle. I thought I was going to fight, and I was going to have to deal with some, you know, ways to just find my way around the environment. But it was never that difficult, because I guess my general personality just didn't make it that difficult. But and that's just a gratitude thing. I mean, I was surprised by that as well.
What do you mean it was a gratitude thing? What does that mean?
I'm just very grateful for that. Like, I mean, I don't really have anything I can say that I did specifically. I don't feel like anything I ever do is something that I actually do. I feel like it's all just a stepping stone. Somebody else laid the groundwork for me, and I'm just one level, somebody else to take the next, you know, the rest of the way. But yeah, I just was able to achieve a peace throughout my incarceration, a lack of drama and violence that I'm surprised about. But like I said, it's nothing I did. It's just naturally how my personality allowed me to get through.
Have you been able to maintain that since you've been out?
Yeah. I oddly enough, I never got myself comfortable inside, so that allowed me to be very comfortable as soon as I got out. Because when you start to get comfortable inside, and the reverse happens, that's when you become uncomfortable when you hit the streets. And so even the week before I got out, I would forget about count time. I'd forget to sign in. I'd forget to wear my ID. Like, I'm never going to accept this shit. I just have to keep writing me tickets because I got a greater place I'm going to. I'm not going to do none of that shit ever.
Interesting.
Good perspective.
Marcus, what sort of surprised you when you got to prison?
I think that was an interesting, you know what I mean? I had never thought about that, but you're right, young. That did surprise me. I was one of the spots I was in about they had a whole sex offender building. That they started to bring people there, and I thought that it was going to turn a whole yard upside down, and it didn't. I was like, oh, this is fascinating. But that was one thing. One of the things that surprised me was like, yo, when I first got one of the, you know, when I first got like into the after receiving, it was the how many, I was in Virginia, how many like men that looked like women that were on the record yard.
Oh,
I'm like, yo, this is, because I was so young and had never seen anything like this. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh snap! They like women. So it's women prisoners on the same record yard with men prisoners. Yo, this is bananas, right?
Yeah.
And so then, you know, like, and they were like, it was phenomenal. I'm like, I don't know how you got yourself to, and then later on you get this, then you know them, like that's so and so. So right now you can see them as right, like, but when I first got there, I was like, oh snap! They like women on the same break out as men.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that was a big
little co-ed
that was
existence, huh?
It's co-ed.
Yeah, that was it. Was
It's not gonna be so bad.
I was like, yo, yeah, I'm like, this is all right. You know, I can bet like this. You know?
And Marcus, you did all your time in the state, right?
Yeah.
And Shannon, all state time?
Same. Yep, all state time.
Okay.
I did federal. You did Fed, right, D?
Yeah, I did federal.
And you did too, Seth, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's this sort of, I don't think people understand, many people don't understand, they tend to think of prison as this sort of one size fits all, this monolithic, you know, and they don't quite understand the difference between jails and prisons and from state to state and from different levels of security, you know, that you're facing. And, you know, where you go so defines the experience you're going to have.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that.
One of the things that's interesting is all the Fed guys are always like, you can get moved from, like you said, Richard, state to state and all that. And, you know, in the state guys, you move from prison to prison, but you're still in the same state, right? Because there's a lot of times, at least on the Fed side, that different states would beef with each other, you know, and different, you know, it's just like, man,
Yeah.
like, you know, DC, you know, it's just,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I actually have an interesting story on that. Go ahead, Marcus.
No, please go ahead.
Because I'm in I co-instruct the course at Marquis School of Engineering called the Architecture of Incarceration, and so I just got out 4.5 months ago. So when I suggested that one of the people that had talked last year and I are good friends, and I said the way that we can kind of collaborate and have this contrast in our experiences for that week as our talks was that he had parole, and Wisconsin ended parole in 1999, and it's been truth in sentencing since then. But we've had arguably the toughest truth in sentencing law in the country, where you do all your time. Ain't none of that 85% shit. You're doing all your time.
Wow.
And the judges didn't really start to actually adjust their sentencing. So they would give 40 years out under parole. You getting out in like 2015. You get 40 under truth in sentencing. You're doing all that damn 40. So what happens though is when you have your time and you know you're doing all your time, you don't give a fuck. Like why do I care now?
Yeah,
and
no
so
good time.
they have this rule on the books where they can give you 10 days extra on your time for not doing work when they want you to do work, for getting an infraction, but they don't enforce it, so it's irrelevant. And so my friend Adam, he was under parole, and so he had to walk on eggshells all the way. Every little thing, like they had him by the nuts, everything. He couldn't, every little thing he had to make sure he was golden. And so for me, when I got down to minimum, my freak flag flew. I was like, I'm getting a cell phone. I had like 5 or 6 of them the last 3.5 years. I'm stealing plenty shit out the kitchen and giving it to everybody. Like, fuck this place. And so I was able to do things though, and with that, especially with the cell phone, where I established more for my reentry than I did in years inside trying to do programs and get my degree and all of that, because I was able to set up a LinkedIn page, learn how to do advanced Google searches, how to, I learned credit and fix my girl credit. Just a variety of things I was doing with my cell phone in 2.5 months. I mean, I was on that sucker all day, got the back pain, just had to hide it the whole time.
On a cell phone now.
Right, I'm getting it in. So
I love it, Shane. I love it.
So when my guy Adam got out, right, he still got this very cautious nature because he had to live like that for 23 years inside. Whereas me, I don't have none of that because the system was never going to do nothing to me. You couldn't let me out early. You couldn't give me no more time. I knew you wasn't enforcing the 10-day rule. So I'm doing whatever I want to do that I feel is best for my release. But now that has helped me so magnificently. When I got out, I was able to just take off, whereas other people, they have to kind of work their way into it. And so it's just it's funny how it happens.
You get a lot of prep time.
Structured.
It's a prep time to get things in order.
Yeah.
Did you ever get caught for any of the shit you were doing?
I got caught with the cell phone. I got one of them. I have 5 of them over the last 3.5 years. Man, we was finding ways to get them joints in left and right. And I happened to, it was like crazy because after the first time I had it at a place, I had to give it back because I wasn't getting reception, and I got moved closer to the city, like 5 minutes from my home. Then
This prison sucks. I don't get no reception in this prison.
Man, I was so pissed. I'm like, I did this whole scheme, had my guy come up, snuck it in the Scrabble box to me and all this crap. And I go in, I'm not getting no reception. You serious?
What security level was that? What security level was that? You did all
that was work release. Yeah, that was work release.
Okay, that makes sense.
I use a work release.
All right, so I'm saying like, yo, how's he like, yo, hold on.
Yeah, I'm like the only
work release. Okay.
Hey,
that wasn't it.
Shannon,
When I go ahead.
somebody asks Shannon, how did you charge your phone?
Oh, I had a charger. So what
You
they
had a
do
charger.
is, yeah, I had a charger, but not just that. They have tablets now in Wisconsin, and the same exact charger that they give us legally
For the tablets, it's a phone.
Use it for the cell phone. So when I first thought I got caught, the dude was like, "Where's the charger at?" I'm like, "Y'all let me buy the charger legally through Keefe. What you talking with? Y'all sold me the cut charger. I didn't even have to sneak that in. I already had that joint. It's even easier."
Sheila asks. Do most states have the 80 to 90% time rule? She's talking about parole, I guess. In the Fed system, you have probation where you get 15% off, and they send you, assuming you didn't go through RDAP, which is their drug program.
A rehab program. Yep.
A rehab program where if you're going through the federal system, you should always say you have a drug problem.
Always.
always.
Always. My lawyer never told me that. So I go, oh no, I have no drug problem. Meanwhile, I had a drug problem. And I could have gotten some benefit from this program. And I'm going, no, I'm a good guy. I don't have a drug problem.
Yeah, exactly.
They know
That's
the
the same
drugs.
thing.
What a schmuck.
Violation, I caught on to it.
I would have been out after
I
like
say
half
no
the
to a
time.
year, 36 months off my sentence too.
But
Bad
in
time
the
to be
feds,
honest.
they send you to a halfway house. And in my case, because I was living in New York, they sent me to a halfway house in the South Bronx. And it was really a nasty place, just really awful. And with like rats running around and, it was disgusting. And, I wished I had stayed in prison during that. A lot of people in the Fed system will choose to stay in prison because at least, they know the time they're going to do, and you're not going to end up, at some rat hole like I went to. So I don't know about the rest of the states. I really don't know. Some do, I guess, but I don't know, somehow.
Yeah, in Virginia, they had 85% rule. They abolished parole in 95. I got locked up in 96. As I know, I was one of the ones I'm under the new law. You got to do, you get qualified to do up to 85% of the time. So you had you could earn up to 4.5 for 30. So for every 30 days you do, you can earn up 4.5 good days.
Right.
But you started off at like 1.5 for 30. And you have every annual review, you would get a review to determine whether or not you can go up to 2.5 for 30.
Right,
if you do it the next year, you can do 3.5 for 30. So. And so similarly, like yo, you in there, you just run it up. You don't,
I mean, the Feds is only if you get 15 days a year. What is it, a year? 15 days a year. It was like something like 85% you got to serve.
Yeah, 85%. Now a lot of people are out on this CARES Act, because of the coronavirus. But I was talking to this one guy he wanted to come on the show, but he said, they let me out, but he said I could get a call any minute, literally. And he had another like 27 years on his sentence. Ooh. And he was at home waiting to get a call that would tell him, you got to go back and serve the rest of your sentence. So it's not a great way to be living. I want to do something new that we haven't tried before, because people are always asking, like, what is life like? What is a typical day, right? So let's call this one day in paradise. I'm being sarcastic now. And let's start with you, Marcus. I want to know, as if I know, Marcus, you're a busy guy and you're a tech guy and you keep a calendar and you have all your appointments and, you got to talk to this VC and you got to talk to this press and you gotta, you know, all the other bullshit that we're all doing, and you gotta keep that organized, or at least you try. You make believe you got an
Try. I
organized
make
life.
believe I did. That's a good way to say it. I make
I
believe.
know, I'm with you. Yeah, and all the people close to us know what a joke that is, actually. But you have a calendar. So let's make believe you're keeping a calendar, except now you're in prison. And, you know, what I found, what I loved, if there's anything to love about prison, I loved the whole routine of it. You know, that was something that I actually
2 o'clock
enjoyed.
nap.
What's that?
2 o'clock nap every day.
Exactly,
Get your
exactly.
workout.
2
When you
o'clock
take your
count,
nap.
stand up.
I don't remember the last time I took a nap.
You do all day. So my question, Marcus, is this. Number one, let's start the day, because every day is the same day. There's no weekends, there's no nothing. What time did you wake up every day?
After the first count. So like whatever 7 o'clock, whatever the 7 o'clock count is, whenever they pop the door, so like before after breakfast.
Okay, and how did you wake up? How did that come about?
When they pop the doors, like when they pop the doors up, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
All right.
Literally. I mean, I would always tell myself I'm gonna get up earlier, but I never did. I mean, some days I would, you know what I mean? But most days I don't.
Okay, so you get up, they pop the door, all of a sudden everybody's starting to move around and talk, whatever. You get up. Do you get dressed? Do you take a shower? What do you do next?
That's when I get up, you know what I mean? I peek out the doors, you know, make sure, you know, see I need to know what's going on in the unit, you know, to make sure nothing's popping off. That was a reflex. I still do that now. Like I just peep out, make sure, you know what I mean? Like, all right, everything's good in the kids' room and all that. And then once I know it's all settled, you know, look in this little scratched up mirror on the wall, you know what I mean? I brush my teeth, wash my face, all that kind of stuff. But then I would get dressed. I was always had some kind of hustle, you know what I mean? So I'm like trying to figure out what's the next move, what's kind of, you know, thing I can do in order to be able to, yeah.
Did you have a job when you in prison?
I always kept jobs. I mean, but I was at a rack of different prisons, you know what I mean? They transferred me a lot. When I first went in, I got a lot of fights. Like I was that dude. I was so young and I was like, I joked a lot, you know what I mean? And then when people was like, man, you did it, I'm like, what up? Put your hands up there, it's whatever. I was like, you know what I mean? So I got in a hole a lot. They transferred me a lot. I didn't simmer down to like I was 4 or 5 years in, and my boy was like, yo, you an idiot. Like, dude, you on his like dudes got 50, 60 years. You beefing with dudes over honey buns, like you got a life sentence. Like, you know what I mean? You gonna explain to your mother how you ran your time up over some honey buns? You wildin', you know what I mean? So like they would like literally push me in the cell and like lock the door and be like, yeah. So later on when I simmered down, so I always had jobs. I was a hall man. I worked in the kitchen for a minute. I was a baker in the kitchen.
All right. Hold on. So you would go to the cafeteria, the mess, and have breakfast first to start the day? We can't hear you.
Uh-oh, something happened.
We can't hear you.
Volume went off. Man.
Your volume went off there.
Like real low.
Yeah, we're not hearing you. Yeah, your earbuds just died.
That's what it was. Yeah, the
I
earbuds.
recognize the problem.
How about now? Am I back?
Yeah.
My bad. My AirPods bad. My bad. But,
okay, so you went to breakfast?
Yeah, I heard you. Yes, I never really went to breakfast. I mean, like early in the day, I would go to breakfast because it was like I went to. But once I got to the point where I had my own commissary and I'm like nah. And I had do clubs like Shannon worked in the kitchen. I just paid them to bring me back food. So
so what would you typically have for breakfast?
I was Robin Hood. It was free.
Yeah, I mean, I would ask dudes to bring me back they would bring back the green and white, so the onions, the green peppers, egg sandwiches. That was a common one. Bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches, sausage sandwiches. The hustle man always came through. Give me, 2 sandwiches for a pack. I was like, yeah, let me get them.
Hustle man.
Hustle man. All right, Shannon, what time did you wake up?
I never miss breakfast. Like I'm so cheap. I'm getting whatever I can out of the system. If you owe me something, you got me in this motherfucker. You give me every little thing. I want all my soap, my shampoos. I want the toothbrushes, even if I ain't using them. I use them for a minute, but the dentist told me to stop using them joints because they weren't nice to good for my teeth. So yeah, I want everything. And then I would get up for breakfast like 6. I think 6 is usually what it was everywhere I went. And it depends where you at. Some places got the door opens, or some places you can just walk right out. Whatever. I was at 9 prisons, so it just varied.
So you would have breakfast there. Did you have a job when you were in prison?
Yeah, I pretty much always had a job. I tried as hard as I could to not have my people send me money. And so I tried to live off the land, so to speak, which is the DOC, as much as I could, and just kind of stretch everything I had. And yeah, so I always had a job making between 12 cents and 42 cents an hour, usually in between.
Did you have a hustle too?
Not really. I mean, I had a lot of opportunities to, I'm big on, if I have something I can do to help you, I want to just do it, because I'm big on relationships versus transactions. And so I feel like if something comes along that I need you to help me with, I would hope that you just help me with, because you can. Because I know you got time, motherfucker. I see how you're playing cards all day. So it's something where I would hope that, you know, I can do the same thing.
What could you do to help somebody?
Writing. A lot of times people would ask me for writing, for helping them study for school stuff. That was a big thing. I had people routinely try to get me to pen pimp for them. Like, I'm not going to be your pen pimp, your ghostwriter on that. That's not, I'm not with that. But yeah, just a lot of things basically in that realm is what I got offers for. But even besides that, I could have done this. I gambled a lot. I was pretty good at like fantasy football, so I made probably a good 20% profit over my career inside off of gambling. You know,
what'd you use as money?
Oh, it was this canteen, like, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have any
usually stuff
macros?
I didn't eat. Yeah, I mean, that was my thing. I wish. I usually get some shit I didn't eat, chili pouches and noodles. Like, yeah, come on with this crap.
Hey man, you do a 20% year-over-year return. You're one of the best traders on the planet in the world.
That's why I feel like when I get out, I can start getting back into it. Yeah, that was one of my goals.
Just do it legit.
So somebody asks a good question that we all sort of take for granted, and we all know what we're talking about. But somebody asks, would we mind this defining hustle in prison?
Yeah.
What's a hustle? So how about this?
Where's the fun
Let's
hustle,
go-
man?
Hold on, we're going to go around the room here. I would like one sentence from each one of you. You tell me, what does the word hustle mean, or what was your hustle? D, what is hustle?
Hustle, man, to me is like just leveraging opportunity. Like, you know what I'm saying, knowing where the opportunity's at and leveraging it for you know, to either an end objective you have or to position yourself in a better situation.
So what was your hustle? What could be a hustle?
I never really had a hustle, honestly. Like, I didn't do the in jail hustle shit personally.
Okay.
But I knew all about it.
Okay, Seth, what's hustle mean to you?
Selling granola bars.
Tell people about that. That's a great story.
Uncle
so
Seth.
yeah, so I had a real job where I was working in the kitchen and making like whatever 12 cents, 13 cents an hour and all that. And I was at the tail end of my bid. And I saw one day I was serving chicken, you know, it's a Thursday or something, right? Thursday's chicken day. So I was like getting the chicken ready. I go to the back freezer and I pull out a box, you know, frozen chicken, ready to start cooking it up. And it said not for human consumption on it. And so I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is chicken, right? Like, chickens can be eaten by humans, but these ones were not for humans. So I said, fuck that. I'm never eating the chicken again. I told a bunch of people, you know, I was serving as they were coming through the line. I'm like, yo, the chicken said not for human consumption. You know, like, and some people were like, what? And I'm like, yeah. And they were like, fuck it, I don't want that. And chicken day was a big day in prison, right? Like,
chicken was a big day.
Like, it wasn't? Come on, man.
Chicken was a big day.
Yes. So,
how sad is that?
Yeah, so some
It's like
people
MLK Day from
Tuesday, Thursday, sell your chicken. So anyways, I don't
It's crazy to hear it's the same way everywhere. That's so funny.
Exactly. So I was like, fuck that, I'm not doing that. So
oh man.
I was like, shit, I got protein from the chicken, I got all these nutrients and everything, and I was trying to, you think the chicken's healthy, but so you lose a lot of shit. So I'm like, I need a snack. I need to make something that I can, like, subsidize myself with, and as I'm working out and doing all that. And so I started just fucking around and making up granola bars of shit I got at the commissary. And next thing I know, I started making a bunch of them, and people were like, yo, what are you making? And you got the guy that's making the cream, the cheesecakes and the other shit. So I just started making granola bars. I partnered up with another dude. Next thing I know, we got guys in other units, like making them up and wrapping them. And then we got guys over here selling them in different
Prison
units.
bars.
Yeah, we bring them out on the yard and sell them out there. And it was fun. I brought in, like, I netted about $300 a month, which
wow,
in prison,
that's good money.
You can't spend that much money.
That's
there.
what I'm saying.
That's good money.
That's as much as you need.
Shannon's saying, like, it's good. It's all right. So-
Marcus, what's a hustle? What was a hustle to you?
So I was the guy. I was the hustle guy at every prison. I ran a store. I ran a commissary.
He was
And
hustle
nothing
man.
has changed.
He was hustle man.
I was the guy, like everybody knows it. If you
The
follow me,
storeman.
like my
Yeah,
friends that
whatever,
come home
yeah.
from prison, like they tell you, they like, yeah, he was the dude. So one of my ones, I started off when I first got there, I saw that, you know, you go to the commissary 3 times every month. That 4th week is like tough because then you don't go to the commissary. And then like on the first of the month, when everybody gets paid, they get paid $30 a month. When they go to the commissary, they run through all of that food and all of that stuff. And at the end of the month, they're looking for somebody to give them some money buzz and some noodles and some cakes and some crackers and some tuna fish.
Ran a
And I
store.
give it to them. I keep my ledger. I give you 2. You give me 3 back on store day.
What about
I
was
give
it
you
one?
3.
you
You
two for
give me
one?
5 back on store day.
Oh, it's 2 for 1?
2 for 1. If you got 1, you were smart out to do a 2 for 1 because you know you're gonna get hungry. You know you're gonna come back.
Right,
So you might as well
right,
do a 2 for 3 now and get out the way.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you do it,
yeah.
if you get 1, you gotta give me 2.
Right,
If
right.
you get one again, you gotta give me 2. Now you're gonna be 4. And I'm not giving you a deal. It ain't no refund. It ain't no. Don't come to me and say, "Oh, I already got 1, so can we now do a 2 for 3?" Nah, it's now a 2 for 1. You know what I mean? So now I got my legends. So by the time store day come, I got a Foot Locker full of so much food. I gotta pay my sale part. I'm like, I gotta rent your Foot Locker. You can eat for free all month. Don't worry about it. Just, you know what I mean, hold all my food. Then by the next store, I got 4 Foot Lockers full of stuff. And so now I gotta like, I'm the guy now.
A lot
When
of
you go to the
bookkeeping.
commissary, I'm like, yo, look,
Bookkeeping.
why would you go to commissary and spend $50 at the commissary? Just come to my store. I'm gonna give you $50 worth of commissary for $35. Just tell your folks to put that $35 on my books, and I'm gonna go ahead, you know what I mean, and give you
Right,
$50
switch
worth
your
of
shit out.
commissary.
Yep.
And you just
Switch it
take the
out.
same commissary form that you take to the store, just bring it to my cell, and I'll fulfill it for you by the end of the day. Bring it, John. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was my hustle.
Wow.
Great.
What about you, Shannon? Did you were helping people with writing letters, you said, and
Yeah, I wasn't
studying-
charging people though. My hustle was the DOC. I like I said, I just hustle off of them. I mean, if I define hustle, I think what your question was initially is to take advantage of the opportunities in your environment in a way that take advantage of only the DOC, like not anybody else individually, but you know, if you want to take advantage of the DOC, that's completely fine. I think that's a key point with this topic is that people hear this and they think like, oh, they're still engaging in criminal activity. It's like you in a jungle. If you in a jungle, you're using the trees and the leaves and you killing bears to eat. Like, it doesn't matter. You are in this environment.
But some people's
Take
hustle was
advantage
the
of whatever's
littlest thing
around
they ever did.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
for
the
real.
kitchen,
Right.
take it from the kitchen is nothing. They got so much shit they waste. So many staff come and take what they want to. So us stealing from the kitchen, that's not really stealing. Believe me, it's like saying you steal from the kitchen because you took 10 cents out of Mark Zuckerberg's car or something like that. Like that's ridiculous. So, and it's even worse than that because Mark Zuckerberg ain't the one that actually incarcerated you and treating you in ridiculous the system that they got you in that ain't trying to get you nowhere productive and messing with your community. So it's a whole complex way to it. So just understand it's not criminal activity in there. It's just a whole different thing.
Plus, it's like some guys are washing clothes and cleaning shoes and like
Yeah,
doing
people do
legit
legit
shit.
stuff. Right. It's like a
We
whole
had-
economy in there.
We had a guy
100%.
making
Cards.
armbands for our MP3s out of underwear waistbands.
The tattoo guy who took the Walkman
Tattoo
apart
dude.
to make a tattoo engine and a guitar string to make a tattoo gun to be able, you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
there were guys making like leather work.
Yeah.
I played
Leather,
guitar, so
yeah.
somebody made
Oh,
me
yeah.
a
Charge shoulder strap.
strap
Yeah.
with my name on it.
You still got it, Richard?
What's that?
You still got it?
Do you know I lost it like the third day I had it, or somebody stole it or something? These
Most
fucking
likely got
people in
stolen.
prison,
You
they're
ain't
all
gonna lose something in
crooks.
prison. You don't lose shit in prison.
And I want to give a shout out to I think Jason Wang. I saw in the chat. He said he
Jason
makes,
is here.
He makes
Yep.
great
Jason,
feet.
what up,
He
Yeah,
man?
said he
peace,
makes
my
whatever
man,
kind
my
of
man,
feet.
BA.
We
Next
got
to the
a
hustle
bunch.
audience.
We got a bunch of our friends with us. Jason,
X-Men.
up in San Francisco, who's doing great stuff with helping people get their CDL licenses and
Shout
become
out.
successful truckers. And we have our friend Craig Sasal, who's
Hey,
here,
what up, man?
who got pardoned from his, the guy had a fucking marijuana charge and received a life sentence, and he got out by, which we're thrilled beyond words, and we're so happy you join us, Craig, and we got a bunch of other friends in here. Let me ask you a question. Brian Korb, who I know from my old days at Defy Ventures, which Seth knows and
Yep.
Jason also knows, of course. He asks, what do you think is the biggest issue or problem with the prison system today? So Shannon, you were down for a while. What's the biggest problem? What could, you're in Wisconsin, what could the state of Wisconsin do to make the whole experience more productive and in general bring, more benefit to people who are going through it?
The biggest issue is this culture of disposability, right? How they treat every aspect of it, the people, the communities we come from, who we are, our family members on visits, as if we are irrelevant, as if we're not actually people who have ripple effects, which you do to us in a wide variety of ways outside of our own families and ourselves and our communities. And so just even within the system, there's a lot they can do that doesn't even cost money. They have every prison across the country, probably the world, has honor dorms where they give you little, benefits and privileges and extra stuff. For this is the problem. They use it, they waste it. They want you to be a good little boy. They want you to just behave well for them so that you're easier for them to handle. But they could utilize that same process and even increase the privileges and the luxuries they give you. And when I say luxuries, I'm not talking about nothing serious. I'm just talking about like maybe you get a single cell, or you get the ability to use the phone more often during the day. Just little things make a huge
beautiful luxuries.
Yeah.
Single cell is magnificent. Single cell is like a 2021
Wait, but you're saying that they were awarded to people so that they'd be good little boys, as you put it.
Yeah.
I understand their angle for doing that. Who should have gotten them if not the people who were behaving well?
People who are use it to incentivize people to do something for the betterment as future citizens. Don't waste it right now to just make me somebody that makes you comfortable in your job so it's easier for you. You can do that and make it so that I'm also doing something that is a program, a course. And it doesn't have to be something the DOC supports. They always want to only have you do stuff that they get money for or that they have in their facility. It's a variety of correspondence programs, things that people will offer out in the streets that you should also be incentivizing. If I'm doing something positive for my life in my future, for what I'm going to be long term once I leave this environment, you should be promoting that. You shouldn't be making it difficult. The hardest thing for me when I got my degree wasn't the work. It was dealing with the dumbass DOC trying to put up all these restrictions constantly with every little thing. So that's the problem, is they don't use human nature to incentivize certain behavior. They use it just to keep you, quiet and to obey the rules and shut the hell up.
Great.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Marcus,
Great
if
point.
you were in charge, what would you do to change some of the joints that you were at?
Yeah, I mean, I came home a long time ago. I came home in 2004, right? And so my experiences are different because it's like a completely the Web 2.0 age just dropped, and that changed the world. And so,
But you remember that shit like it was just yesterday, man, when you was like, oh, I'm at the bottom of the hill and like doing this.
No question. No, I mean, no question, right? I mean, and the reason why I say is because like when I went to prison, there was no internet. I came home when there was 90, it was 96. There was no internet. I came home in 2004 and there was Google. Wow. Like my whole world exploded. You know what I mean? Like, and it was like no leap inside of what the technological advance that experienced between that time. It was no buffer for that for us, right? Like I was blessed. I was at one of the spots that allowed me to enroll inside this brand new computer class when Windows 95 when Windows 98 had just dropped. So we had got some Windows 95 operating system computers, and it was like, yo, Marcus, we want to put you on as a job as a teacher's aide because you're one of the youngest people here. You probably had some experience in high school working with computers. We want you to run a computer class. I'm like, word? Thank God for that, because it gave me access to computers in a way that nobody else in prison had, right? Now I'm a damn tech. I'm a tech CEO. You know what I mean?
Shannon
right?
has 5 cell phones.
Right.
Word. I mean, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. Like it was such a massive leap, you know what I mean? When I came home, because this cell phone generation had just dropped. When I was in, the StarTAC phones, the flip phones, it just like they had just dropped. So everybody was like, yo, they was trying to pay every CO. The price was $1,000. If you pay a CO $1,000, you can get a StarTAC. That was the number. You know, everybody knew it. If you gave them $1,000, you can get a StarTAC, right? And so like now my thing is, how do we build a system where tech is just easily available to people that are there that allow them, because you hear Shannon talk about how he was able to build a LinkedIn page, how he was able to, like, if you think of what you can do with a freaking cell phone today, when you in prison, like your reentry path, you ready to come home smoking, because like, yo, you know what you want.
50 grand in the
You
bank,
can
you
open
got
up,
everything. Yeah.
you can open up a stash account, you can open up a bank, like you can do, you can do
Get a
all these
legit
amazing
job.
things. You come home, you like, yo, I'm ready to go. You know what I mean? You have an idea of what the world looked like. When I came home, the world was like, whoa. You know what I mean?
So when you guys were down, I remember all we did after dinner, and I was with a lot of like white collar guys. So, we were scheming, just it was a genetic thing for us, and I was with some like classically serious stone crooks, with
Classic
white collar guys who just had it in their blood, no matter what. They were just, they'd go, here's $1,000, do something honest. Here's $1 and do it crooked. They'd choose the dollar every day. I remember we came up with all sort of ideas for businesses. Did you have an idea for a business? And in fact, your current business, Marcus, when you were down, or, what were you thinking of doing when you got out?
I was running, I wanted to open up a hotel.
Hotel. Interesting.
I got an article of a Virginia Pilot newspaper that had an advertisement for a new hotel that was getting built in Virginia Beach, and it was by this person. He was the developer, and I was like, "Holy shit! You mean to tell me that there's a person that owns a Marriott? You mean he owned a whole hotel? Yo, how much money do you have to be able to buy a hotel? I don't know how much money you got, but I want his money, and so I will do something." That is the goal. So whatever it takes, I'm going to. And I heard this real estate thing was big, but a hotel, you a boss if you say I own Marriott.
It's funny that you'd be in prison and be inspired to get in the hospitality industry. It's not exactly the sort of environment.
He's getting into the real estate industry with the hospitality being the money side of it.
Well, at least he knows how to do it right, because he knows he's experienced how it was done wrong.
Did you have an idea for a business, Shannon, when you were down?
I can't say I really had anything solid. I mean, I was so focused on trying to get myself prepared. Like, emotional intelligence was huge. I wanted to be able to get out and just segue into anything easy. And I feel like I've actually achieved that. I'm glad I focused on that. But I don't really think there was anything I had in mind to really just do when I got out. I had little ideas and stuff, but I can't think of anything concrete other than.
What about you, D? Did you have a plan?
Yeah. In music industry, I wanted to be an executive. I wanted to start my.
Oh, that's right.
Learn how to write a business plan in federal prison from a guy from Wall Street, older cat. We took his ACE course in prison, learned how to write a business plan, set out my business plan, and followed through when I came home. Started my own independent record label.
Did you know what you were gonna start your prison bars, right, Seth? Your protein bars.
Yeah. I knew I wanted to do that, try it out on the streets, and then I never finished my degree in college because I left early to go play pro ball. So, but I made a promise to my dad that I would finish. He was a professor and all this, and really focus on school being important. And I said, I'm only going to be able to use these legs at this time. That once in my life, should I go hoop or should I finish my degree? He's like, go now, but just promise me you'll come back and finish it. And then life goes on, and I did fine making money, without a degree, and so just never did it. And then when I got out of prison, I said, all right, I'm going to go finish my degree, which I did while I was working on, starting prison bars, and that was the plan. So
let me ask you a question. This is a little sort of controversial, or at least I feel it is when I answer it honestly. I believe that prison, the time I did, actually was what I needed to do, and I got a lot out of it. It taught me, it gave me insight into my motivations and how my ego was just getting me into trouble. And, I knew nothing about humility, and when you scrub a lot of toilets, you start to learn about humility, hopefully. Did you feel like you got something out of prison, Shannon? Absolutely. Or was it just a complete ridiculous waste of fucking time?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely needed to go. It's funny, I was just on a panel today talking about restorative justice and about how The reality is people meet me now, they can't understand how I was a very different person back then. You know, the truth is I killed a person in cold blood. That's a very different mindset it takes back at the time. I was definitely in a mode where I needed to be taken out of society for a while. Now, the prison system isn't what did it. It's, you know, fortunately I was able to get these lessons from it and take them and not overtake the lessons and take the wrong lessons. But it wasn't the prison system that did it. There was.
And where did you get the lessons from if it wasn't prison?
I got the lessons from two things. One is naturally the way I am is I'm able to just interpret things in a different way. You have so many people inside, you know, you can't look at an anomaly and say, okay, they're an example. I'm an anomaly. I don't represent the people in prison because so many people in prison struggle in there and when they get out. I was able to handle that differently. And that's a lot just of blessings that I have with my personality and my support network and the fact that I was able to take courses when I was inside because my people paid for them. That's what that wasn't the prison system. It was despite the prison system, I was able to come out of that with a massive amount of growth.
It's also ownership too, right? Like you own your life. You know what I mean? You go, okay, like I'm gonna do this way or this way, right? And you choose one way, and then you go.
But would you have gotten all that you described, Shannon? As powerful stuff that you describe. Would you have gotten that if you remained on the trajectory of where you were going, where you were, the life you were leading?
Pre-prison.
No, I definitely needed to be taken away out of society, but there's different ways to do it. The way that we currently have is a destructive, inefficient way, but I definitely did need to leave. You know what I mean? Like there's different options for a solution. And the one that we currently have in America, I still was able to take from it and come out of it where I am now, which is, exactly. But there was a way better way to do it. You know, you see that all the time inside.
That's interesting. What about you, Marcus? Did you, I mean, was it important that you went away, or was it just an interruption in your life that you needed to get over as quick as possible?
I mean, in my today's world, I mean, I'm the CEO of Flikshop now, and now it's become such a part of not only my life, my family's life, a big part of my brand, what it is that I live for, and the world I'm able to, the mission work I'm able to do.
Who you are.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's a big part of me now. So, and for real, to be honest though, like that, it was only as like very new, because it was like Flikshop, because before Flikshop, when I was running the construction business, there was no way you couldn't pay me enough money for me to tell somebody that I had a felony. Right. Like there was no, I do a podcast and talk about me having a felony. Dude, I'm bidding on a project right now to remodel somebody's kitchen. I'm about to charge them $72,000. The last thing this lady is about to sign this contract that says the $72,000 kitchen remodel is that the dude who did it just did almost a decade in prison. No, absolutely not. I'm about to put on these Louis loafers and we're going to jump and use the euphemisms that I would never use inside of a prison record yard. You know what I mean? I'm going to just talk different. All the people who invest in me and all of the people that know me as a CEO, they'll never hear me talk like this ever. The only reason I'm talking like this is we on the yard. You know what I mean?
All right.
The reality of it is that I ran from it.
Keep it real in the yard.
You just made my day by saying that, by the way. So which is the real you? Do you ever feel now that you're kind of torn between these, you know?
Hell yeah, I'm the CEO of Flikshop, bro. Like for real.
All
like
right.
so, yeah, of it is that like I mean I can't like even I know this is recorded. I know, you know what I mean, people may see it later, but I'm for look, y'all, this is what it is, right? It's me. But here's the before I thought that I had to be able to hide behind those euphemisms and those Louis loafers in order to be able to accelerate the growth, because I knew that that was the only thing that was going to allow me to have the trajectory that I'm blessed to be able to have now, right? I mean, but if I'm being honest, like going back to like, do I think that prison was the thing that did it? I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, the flywheel would have turned some way. Maybe I didn't get locked up for that. Maybe I would have continued to go to high school and got a scholarship to go to Duke, and I would have met some dope friends that built a different kind of technology, because my brain wasn't the different brain from when I was in C12, and then I'm a brain, you know what I mean, living in dorm so-and-so, you know what I mean? The thing of it is that we'll never know. I am able to say that I was blessed to be able to leverage it in a way that I never would have dreamt that I would be able to do.
Well, speaking personally, you know, people often ask me, would you have your record expunged if you could? And I go, no, because this is part of my brand. And what I preach.
I'm getting mine expunged, Richard. So whatever you want to do.
I understand.
I don't know about D. I don't know where you're at on the thing. I'm getting mine.
But my attitude is that all of us, all 70 million of us, should be looking at, you know, there's reason for us to take pride in what we learn and how we did the time. Did we do it honorably? Did we grow? Did we become stronger from it? Have we been able to learn how to deal with pressure? You know, there's another side to this besides the shame. And that if we're only dwelling on the negative and the shame part, you know, we'll never, ever have a chance to, you know, be all that we can be. That's my attitude. So I say, people go, do you regret? And I go, yeah, there are things I did, certainly. I regret mostly treating people disrespectfully. That's what I regret the most. I'm ashamed of that behavior. But listen, I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't go through that. And who the fuck knows? Yeah, I could have won the lottery if I wasn't in prison. That's true. But I also could have continued being some asshole, you know, that treated people poorly. So, you know, I don't really know, but I am who I am today. So
Yeah.
there you go.
And there you have it.
There you have it.
Steve, what
Like
about
it or
you?
not.
You getting expunged or this is like so the point you're making, Richard, is great because it's the experience of prison is one way, right? And we and everybody here on the yard and most of the people that we hung out with are all like, they're going, shit, we're here, let's make the most of this time. Eventually, you know, knock on wood, everybody kind of comes to that conclusion, going, let's make the most of this, let's grow, let's build from here. But when you get out and you still have this record, we all know that that's a real thing, right? And now it becomes this life sentence that we all have to deal with, you know, back in the world. And I think there's a lot of stuff in prison, you know, and all that, but I also think there's a lot of changes that need to be made after prison as well, right? And that's why I'm saying, being the more people that have their legs to stand on and power and authority that have gone through the system, the more the system changes, right? Like
I feel like it's changed. I feel like the world is changing. In the 16 years since I've been out, things have improved. That's my attitude.
How long have you been out, Richard?
Sorry?
How long have you been out?
I got out in 2005.
Oh, wow.
16 years. It feels certain, it's like high school. It feels like yesterday, or it feels like a lifetime ago, you know?
But now what I'm seeing now is that with this wave of criminal justice reform and all these issues coming to Black Lives Matter, whatever it is that tie into all that, is that I'm seeing that being formerly incarcerated was a disadvantage. And now we kind of now have an advantage. And I think that when you go through prison, people like us, we take that disadvantage and turn it into an advantage.
Yeah.
How do we do
Create
that?
something out of it.
How do we do that?
Well, how have you done it? You created 70 million jobs.
Okay.
Right?
How
Marcus
does
created
everybody
Flikshop.
else do it? They find their way?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you figure out how you could take the disadvantage and make it an advantage, where you either advocate in that area, and you know you build a brand around it that creates, you know, can monetize it, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Position yourself on different platforms, become a thought leader in the space, whatever it is, right? And I think that now is an opportunity for people that have been incarcerated, like you said, to come out of the shadows, right? Take control of your life, take control of your destiny. Yeah, you've been incarcerated. Yeah, you did your time. You're not going to make it a life sentence. You're going to flip it around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right on. Right on.
Shannon, that leads into one thing that I was going to ask you about perfectly. So the community, right? Like that's what you know, that's what inside prison walls, that's what's being read, that's what's being talked about, right? That you're big about that, right? That's what Commissary Club is bringing everybody together, you know, on the outside for the same things. Like I'd love to hear you talk on that for a minute, just because I know you got a lot to say about the community and the power that's in that community.
Yeah, definitely. I just real quick touch on something Devon just said. It's easy, I think, to think that everybody can get out and just do that, but a lot of people are just fighting fires every day in their life because they have trauma. And so it's something where ideally we would use that, because when I got out, and I wear this t-shirt a lot, it says, you know, almost all my clothes indicate I was in prison. I got free people problems. I got the correct the narrative shirt. I got guess who just got out after 17 years in prison, walking out like this. I got that shit. I got out. Yeah, so I own it, but I know a lot of people can't because they don't have that confidence. They have this trauma and they have this fear. And so I have the confidence. Like, you ain't gonna tell me I'm gonna own my story. You're never gonna own my story. Yeah. It's just, you know, unfortunately, a lot of people just can't. They're not in that place yet. With the community, you know, that's pretty much what we focus on. We focus on pre-entry, which is trying to get you as prepared as possible for the time you reach the door. Because by the time you reach the door, you're already behind the 8 ball if you haven't been doing your time, if you haven't been taking advantage of the time, all those little euphemisms that we use a lot of times of do the time, don't let it do you, you know. And so for me, I was so focused on that, but a lot of people aren't. But a lot of it is that they don't have the resources or the you know, right. It was before that, you know, that was just the combination of a whole long career of getting ready. But yes, so we just try to provide as much as we can of resources. Right now, we're getting ready to start putting together career packets for people inside so that they can actually dream responsibly. I mean, anybody who's in prison knows that there are so many people inside thinking for 5 years, 10 years, I'm gonna do this when I get out. And you hit the door and it's like, oh, I can't even do this. Legally, I can't even do this. Financially and bureaucratically, it's too much red tape. I can't even get into it. And so we can start getting you the information right now as to what exactly you're facing in this area. And then you can make a decision off of that. Okay, I really can't really do this. I can do this. Okay, we got you. Now we'll get you prepared, 50, 60% prepared. Then when you hit the door, we'll have corporations and companies and industry sponsors that will take you the rest of the way. You'll already be halfway there. You already have a relationship with these companies. So you almost got a job already.
You're getting them early.
Right, exactly. So that's a lot of what we do is I'm trying to focus on as much as we can to leverage that one wealth that people have inside, which is their free time. That's the thing they got to, like, I ain't got no free time out here. I don't have that shit, but I had droves of it when I was inside. So use that shit. Use that. People out here don't have that. That's a luxury. Use that now. So we just try to find ways to get them whatever we can.
So Shannon, how do people who hear you, who are listening right now, or people who are going to watch this, you know, when they, after it's, you know, been available and it's recorded, how do they get in touch with you? How do they bring, you know, your program to where they live because they want to pursue something like it?
Yeah, I'm putting the URL in the chat right there if anybody wants to see, but I'm on LinkedIn.
CommunityNow.us.
Yep.
That's what Shannon's organization is. It's very interesting because there's so many organizations that are working with folks in prison, and then when they get out, and you are hitting, you know, the problem before they end up in prison, and getting a jump on the game, so people don't look back and go, shit, I wasted so much time. I could have gotten more out of the experience. So that's a great strategy. Marcus, tell us what you're doing now besides Flikshop and blowing that up and becoming a bazillionaire. What else you got going on, and how can people connect with you?
Yeah, man. You know, one of the things that I mean, for those who don't know how Flikshop works, so we built the app that allows you the ability to be able to take a picture, add some quick text, press send, and we take that picture and that text, press send, and we create a real postcard and we mail it to any person in any prison cell anywhere in the country. The reality of it is that a lot of the families who sit in these and sit at home and they want to connect with their loved ones have children with their parents that are incarcerated, and we want to give them the opportunity to be able to Flikshop as much as they can completely for free. And so we built the Flikshop Angels product that allows for the community to jump in and they can contribute and become Flikshop Angels and allow for these kids to send mom and dad as many pictures as they want completely for free, and they can just flood their cells with mail. So that's one of the things that I'm like super laser focused on building right now is our Flikshop Angels product, and really hoping that we can connect a bunch of families. So I'm like out here, you know what I mean, just asking folks like, yo, become an angel. Because we are leveraging, we built the tech that's doing it, and tech is sexy. Divine talked about it, like he said it, you know what I mean? Like the, you know, this is the time where a lot of folks, no matter what you're doing, if you want to be an entrepreneur at least, you can leverage this opportunity. Because like, but when I was launching Flikshop, again, I mean, I just didn't feel comfortable in that era of saying I have a felony conviction. And so like, I challenge the folks that are listening to remember like, yo, it like, no matter what you want. And the reality of it is that because I put that self-restriction on myself, that self-rejection, I self-rejected. As a result of that, I may have missed out on opportunities. So I'm with Shannon on it. So no matter what you are, no matter who you think you are, you're right. So if you think that you are a felon that doesn't have opportunities, you're right. If you think that you are an amazing entrepreneur that's gonna come out here and crush it, guess what? You're gonna come out here and crush it. You're right. If you think that you're looking for this, you're gonna need this amazing job and then so and so, you keep doing what you're doing, moving, and you keep believing and saying it and acknowledging about yourself. I promise you, that thing is gonna land for you. So that's the thing I would say.
It's great advice. Great advice, and it becomes the truth.
Hey, Mark, I got a question for you, man. On top of that, so I know with what you're doing with Flikshop and everything like that, you go back and you volunteer your time and your energy and your experience and all that with a lot of men in prison, back in prison, right? Like, I know you've been, I don't know if you know even how many times you've done that back in prison, you know, after you gotten out. And we've all done, I think, some sort of that. And I'm speaking for me personally, when I've been going back and forth now, going like, it's getting harder and harder for me to continue to do that, because when I leave, I'm the only one leaving. You know what I mean? Does that, have you gotten into that at all? I mean, is it just like, look, you just pour in, don't even go down that road and just, you know, pour in as much as you can.
I don't.
This is what it is.
I don't. Yo, you know how hard it is to find a freaking Marcus? Like when I was back in those prison cells, I dreamt about having just a Marcus, somebody that I can, because you can't be what you can't see. You know what I mean? And like, it was hard. It's so freaking hard to come out of there. I mean, I was 23 when I came home after doing almost a decade in prison. My last grade completed, being in 9th grade, and never can't even really explain why I've been, right? It was so freaking hard. And all I wanted was somebody I can cling on to believe that, like, yo, I actually could be that, right? And you know who I clung on to? Jay-Z. When Jay-Z said, I flip bricks like Flair, Barney Rubble in them. But when he was saying like spend Japan yen at 10 major events, I'm like, oh, this dude is brilliant. When he was saying like he is using those bars, he's like, I could make 40 off a brick, but one rhyme could beat that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. That's all I need to hear. Is you right? Like literally one bar can beat her off the dude with the brick, and the dude with the brick was the man. So I'm like, yo, how can I? He was the one I aspired to be like, right? And so like now when I go back, I'm like, yo, look, I just want to be. I ain't even here to do anything outside of hit the switch, turn the light on, and allow you to leverage this. And then after that, there is an action item. And the action item for us, that's why we created the Flikshop School of Business, was access. There are a ton of these dudes that sit and says, I ain't no unicorn. It's a lot of talent. The talent just doesn't have the access and the social capital in order to be able to get there. The investors that, shout out to Alicia for investing in Flikshop. I love you so much, Alicia, for believing in us. If it weren't for the investors that believed in us, there's no way in the world we would be able to have the trajectory that we have in right now. It's only because somebody took a shot on us. So my job is to open up our access now that I'm blessed to be able to have, the social capital that I'm blessed to be able to have, and be like, bruh, I don't care. You got a car wash business. I promise you can scale that, Joe. How you thinking about doing? You gonna do mobile detail? And have those conversations with him to allow him, to give him the permission to believe that he can come home and murder the game.
You guys have been saying this all night too, that you know, like the environment or just exposure to other things, right? No matter where you're at, you get a different perspective. You get to see everything else, and people that were down, and you know, we're having those conversations on the yard inside are the ones that are like going, shit, you know, like I got a different perspective from this dude, and I thought about this from this guy, and you get, you know, you now have possibilities, right? Like that's great stuff.
It's
Can
a
I add one
great.
more thing about what our organization does too real quick, because I don't want to slow the theme up here.
Go ahead, Shannon.
So we talked earlier about how it's like sexy right now to be formerly incarcerated, right? It's just crazy how it is. But I think right now it's a moment that could easily be missed. You know, we've had moments like this in the past where things happen and people don't capitalize. And I feel like we need to capitalize. It's going to be another lost moment where we could have taken advantage of this and really had some systemic change. And I know for what our organization does with the Correct the Narrative campaign is, in addition to reaching in with our, you know, our in-reach, we have this next level outreach, I call it, where we're going into communities and trying to connect with people that are more indifferent and antagonistic to the idea of reform, to the need for reform, and people with criminal records, and confronting them with our successes, our humanity, and our agency. And so we have a lot of vignettes. We've been doing interviews. We are doing a lot of really just footage and video to push those stories. And what I've been so surprised about is that not only is it helping people who are seeing this and had maybe a bias, and then they don't see us as people, but they see these videos like, oh, damn, they're successful. Oh, damn, they're actually people, have families. Like, that's crazy. It's not, but I mean, it's just people don't understand that. So we push that, but the people that we're portraying, that we're doing the interviews of, they've been wildly encouraged by it as well. And so we're in talks with the DOC right now to start having it be footage that they do. I mean, they're going to pay for it because they got to pay for it. They pay for crap all the time. So this is quality ass footage. And so it's really something that encourages them, to show them that it doesn't have to be what you think. The narrative that you've heard so long about, you get out and it's terrible. Like, yeah, it's terrible. If you think it's going to be terrible when you get out, you're right, it's going to be terrible. But if you see people that have done it, people that have been doing it for a long time, even when it was worse, right now it's hot, then you're going to be straight. That mentality is what you want to get you, so you can understand and have that
having that
confidence.
and having
Right.
that hope. You see guys that were down and that lost hope, and they're just done, right? But once they get that hope back, and you hold on to it no matter what it is, and you're good to go. Great.
All right. Well, hope is a fitting coda to our conversation. And we all hope and pray for our brothers and sisters in prison, coming out of prison, their loved ones. We do something at the end of every episode. I call it the rant. Every week there's something that bothers me that really rubs me the wrong way. And if you know me, you just know that I have no lack of things that annoy me to no end. And I came up with this idea for the yard, if for no other reason, just so I could fucking get it off my chest and share it. And something's really bothering me. I know a lot of people, if you're like me at the very least, I am addicted to watching the shit on the news, what's going on in politics regarding now the second impeachment of Donald Trump. I am definitely not a fan of the guy. I never have been. I know him going back years and years in both New York and in Florida. He was a bum then, and he hasn't improved. And now he's accused of knowingly inciting an insurrection. How many people do you know that have incited an insurrection? That's some serious shit. He induced a huge crowd of armed lunatics, protesters to storm the US Capitol, intent on causing bodily harm to the Speaker of the House, to the Vice President, his own Vice President. And in the course of January 6th, what happened? People died. Hundreds of people were injured. 2 guards were so traumatized they committed suicide. That there are Democrats that are prosecuting the case, and their contention is this is just part of the bullshit that he'd been pulling for the last several months. This campaign to overturn a lawful election that he lost. It's serious stuff, certainly. Armed violence, loss of life, economic costs of hundreds of millions of dollars, treason. For most people, for everybody sitting here, and I dare say anybody who's listening right now, the police, if we pull this shit, the police would have long ago had put the cuffs on us, and we would have been held without bail at some nasty place, rotting away as the case just sort of meandered along. They would have established easily, if it were me or you, that there was a conspiracy, people were crossing state lines, there was a RICO predicate, and the perp had no remorse whatsoever. He did nothing wrong. And newscasters would be talking about how many charges there were, and that each one would carry a 20-year sentence. And there'd be massive restitution for the hundreds of millions of dollars this all cost us. If this would be a federal case for sure, and if it were me or you, by now we would have ended up copping a plea, because you don't take a federal case to court. Because if you do, you end up like some of our guests did, and you end up with a sentence that's 10 times worse than if you had just copped a plea. So you'd be sent away to prison for 25 years or maybe more, and where you'd be left maybe to catch coronavirus and never leave prison. That's how it would go if Trump were just any American citizen. But of course, we know he's not just any American citizen. This is a guy who boasted that he could kill someone on Fifth Avenue in New York and he wouldn't lose a single follower if he did that. He's not being treated like any other American citizen. And what's the defense? The Republicans are claiming, they're not saying what he did was right or wrong. They're saying technically it's unconstitutional to charge him at all, so therefore leave him alone. This guy's not going to, no matter what, it's not going to do a day in prison for the shit that he pulled. So rather than having his life and the life of his family completely destroyed, like it would be for us, he ends up playing another round of golf at Mar-a-Lago. And rather than having his entire economic basis destroyed by going through the criminal justice system, you know, he'll be left to launch another rip-off business that he'll make millions from. And rather than running the very, very significant risk of him catching a deadly disease while he's sharing a cell, well, I described who he might be sharing a cell with before, somebody who's not very nice, shall we say, he's going to find a way to continue his lying, his cheating, grifting ways. Man, it must be fucking great to be the king. That's all I got to say. Well, that's it for tonight. I once again thank everybody here for joining us for the yard. We're grateful beyond words. We had just amazing guests, as I knew they would be. Shannon and Marcus, you guys are brilliant.
Thanks,
and
Thanks,
smart and driven and have so, you know, your stories have yet to be written for what lies ahead. You know, that's just so obvious. To my co-host Seth and Divine, you guys, it's always a gas hanging out with you, and thank you for joining us here. The way we work when we end, we leave the Zoom room open. So if there's anybody here that wants to just hang out and connect with one another or talk about what you're involved with, please feel free. We'd love you to take advantage of that. If there's anybody here that would like to be a guest with us in upcoming episodes, in a minute, there'll be a screen that has the way to connect with Adrian. Please reach out to her. Please follow Divine and myself and Seth on, I guess we have Twitter and we have Instagram, but stay connected to us. If you like what you heard tonight, if you like what we're trying to do with Commissary Club, we're trying to create a community. Our belief is that if we can bring together 70 million people, we can fucking elect any president we want. You know, we've got that sort of power, and we can make this world a hell of a lot better for ourselves and for our brothers and sisters who are in prison, coming out of prison, whatever. That's our goal. So thanks so much for joining us. Everybody stay safe and peace. Have a good night.
Peace.